Hello, hello. It has been quite a bit of time. It's me, Reverend Arlene from Reverend Arlene Codorniz Ministry, and today is another episode of the Sacred Pearl podcast. It's been quite a while. I had plans with certain interviews the for the podcast, but life is getting in the way a bit with other obligations for the two guests. So I am hoping that in June we can have them on and share their amazing information. So in this episode, or just chats that I wanted to talk about and bring in, I made a short about it on my YouTube channel. Um, but I felt like, or the information I was receiving um, through my higher self team, through God, was to elaborate on it a bit more. Um, okay, so I guess the subject or how to present the subject is something that, again, and when I say this, it's not a judgment on any other type of practitioner or teacher or anything like that. It is just the information, the conversations I've had with God and I've had with my higher self team that has brought this to light um, for me, and now being asked to kind of share it, I guess, on a wider scale, being here on my YouTube channel and on the podcast. So it's kind of where, okay, so whew, trying to figure out the words, which I usually struggle with. Um, so something I've noticed, and again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I do believe that it is something worth going deeper for anyone on this journey of, self-discovery, of self-awakening, right? Of remembering. And that, as we start this process of evolving and growing and expanding and everything just kind of starts opening up for us, right? And it's pretty amazing. And you end up having this ability or just this remembering of how to connect more to your innerverse, right? And you realize that you are this multidimensional being, right? And this interdimensional being. And it can be so much fun to be in the ethers, let's say, right? Like you're in the ethers, you're, you know, just kind of like on this high, right? Where often people will use psychedelics to get to, where really you don't need to. It's just a matter of meditating and breathing, and then boom, you're there. Um, but so what's interesting is that, yes, there's a time and a place to connect and to, um, you know, connect to to those multiverses, right? To that aspect of you. And it does help you in seeing from uh, a more expanded perception and perspective, right? So often for me too, when I'm just doing the work that I do, it does help that I can kind of step and almost as if I'm getting this bird's eye view and I can see further out, right? But I find that sometimes what's happening is that often when people are in this and the different teachers and stuff they connect to, it's they lose sight of the fact that yes, yes, I'm not saying you're not. I'm not saying that no, you are of the stars, of the dust, you are of the universe, you are of God, you know, you are all these things. You are this multidimensional, interdimensional being, right? You are, the soul in a human body. Um, you know, but that's where then things kind of get lost sometimes, is the fact that, yes, you're in this human body. You're here to experience life as a human while still remembering and accessing the truth of what you are, right? Which is that interdimensional, multidimensional being. But it is so important to still remember that you're here. We came here to experience life as a human. We came here to experience what it feels like in this meat suit, right? And to adore it and to have such appreciation and respect for it, that we are still part of the earth. So we're here to walk the earth, right? And sometimes I think back to like Jesus, and about bringing heaven to earth, right? Heaven and earth. And that's what I feel people forget about sometimes. Or when you're on this journey, often we see being human as a weakness, or that it's, a downside for us, an inconvenience, when it's not. That's the whole point of it, and when I think for me in some ways, like again, I can only really speak personally, but for me, when I think about, if I wasn't human, I wouldn't have my sons, right? Um, if I wasn't human, I wouldn't get to enjoy and really like take in, the joy of listening to music, uh, moving to the music, feeling it when I play my drum, when I play my singing bowl, feeling the vibrations, right? I wouldn't be able to feel the warmth of the wind, in my hair, on my face, the sun beaming, and I just think sometimes, we're taught to like frown upon it, or, that it just makes us so much weaker, or just like it's just, it just always has this, often has this negative side to it, where to me that just doesn't resonate. Like it just doesn't feel like, how am I supposed to embody, or how am I, like embodying means embodying this too, not just, all the other magical things that I can connect to, right? Because there's magic in all of it too. There's magic in smelling the flowers, dealing with allergies right now, right? Like it's allergy season, whatever. So I'm like, still, it's about embracing that, right? And often too, like uh you have so many people walking around just, I'm this enlightened being. And I always think of Eckhart Tolle, and one time he was listening to something of his, and he made this one comment, and that comment, always sticks with me. He's like, sure, you can sit there and say you're enlightened, when you're on your own, and you've really, moved yourself away from, you know, human contact or contact with other things. But it's like, but his one line was, spend a weekend with your family and then come back and tell me how enlightened you are, right? And I thought, exactly, right? Like it's learning to, like, to me, when I think of enlightenment, when I think of embodiment, when I think of alignment, to me it's, having all this other stuff around you, but it not impacting your peace, right? Where it's like, yes, the ground might be shaky, but yet you're still firm. Like it might be shaking, you can feel it, but it doesn't disrupt you, right? And again, I'm not saying I'm fully there. Like, no, there's days, yeah, there's some days I'm like, yep, I'm good. And then there's other days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, everything just pisses me off. And yeah, right. So again, I'm not trying to sit here, like I said, I'm not trying to sit here and judge. It's just an observation. It is just something that, it's been shared with me through my conversations with God and my higher self team. And I just think, it was, I just felt like it was something that needed, or they felt it was something that needed to be shared, that, it's, there is no separation, right? It's not about one versus the other. We are here to embrace it and live it all. That it's, it's that whole thing too, where it's, again, it's not, it's more about like a polarity in a way, right? Where it's not one versus the other, it's the polarity, it's two heads of the same coin, right? Um, and it's about embracing that and knowing that there's such a gift in it and that it's not to be frowned upon. I don't know. I'm hoping that's making sense. Um, but yeah, I just felt like it needed to be shared, like just to understand that, you know, it's not just about living in the ethers. It's about knowing what you know because you've been able to access the ethers and other dimensions and other states of consciousness, and then bringing that and living it here. That is the goal, is taking what you know and then being able to apply it to your life, because that is still the main purpose of being here, is to be that here so that there, again, there is no separation. I'm hoping that makes sense. And I'll leave it at that for now. Of course, I'm always happy to hear any kind of comments, your thoughts, your feelings on the situation, what you feel about the topic and what you've discovered in your own path of becoming more open and evolved and growing. And yeah, and just remember, as always, you are loved, you are seen, you are safe, and you are whole, surrounding you in so much love and peace. Again, I'm Reverend Arlene. This is the Sacred Pearl Podcast. Till next time.